place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about... What do we talk about?
Stuff and things.
Don't you know the tagline?
My brain is in 15 other places right now.
Where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, August 29th, 2025, and this is episode 1075 of Living Free in Tennessee. And it's a Friday, so it's a Homestead Happenings show. And I'm on with Tactical today, who is not in his chair as usual because he had to run outside to get his lumbar support pillow. It's also an emotional support pillow, so you don't want to separate him from that at all. He's getting 2 lumbar support pillows apparently today. So how's your week been, Tactical? It's been a week. Hello to everybody in the live stream. I see Margot is here, Pack Rat, Matt, Martinson family, and Debbie in Texas. You guys, if you got questions or want to hear more about something or have a comment, put the word question or comment in all caps, and I will do my best to bring it in. Oh, J.M. Rosalia is on. I haven't heard his voice in a long time, and he knows why, because he hasn't been on the app. Anyway, every time I'm on the app for like a whole day, and then suddenly somebody talks.
Okay.
Yeah, that happens. Anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you need to come out to an event and find out what I'm talking about or ask. I've got a featured event for today, and it is at the Base Camp Lodge at the Holler Homestead. It's on Sunday at 1 p.m. We're having a potluck and a meetup and a demonstration. But actually, it's an instructional presentation from Hoff Grid Meat Company about, because they're an off-grid meat farm. And that's how they managed to build homesteading into their life on the budget that they had, right? So they've taken their family, they're living in a camper off-grid, and they've been rotationally raising meats. So ducks, chickens, pigs. I don't think they have any, I don't think they have beef at this time. So they're moving these all around, and needless to say, you're going to need to occasionally shock one of those animals to keep them in their paddocks, right? Tactical?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to talk about how they built a solar system for a fence charger rather than just got a solar fence charger. That's going to be this Sunday at 1 p.m. If you want to come, there's an RSVP form to fill out at livingfreeintennessee.com. And of course, later that day, we have our member webinar, which is with Sean Mills from Hack My Homestead. He's going to talk about artificial intelligence and how it's being used in the real world, among other things. That's one I'm looking forward to as well. It's going to be a busy Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I also have 2 sponsors to thank today. The first one is agristaxadvice.com. Matthew Sursley at agristaxadvice.com has a pretty cool setup where he analyzes your finances, suggests how you can structure yourself to take advantage of the tax code. What I have found to be super beneficial in working with Matthew is that I got my financial tracking more in order, which is an ongoing struggle every week for me. But in order to communicate with him, I had to be able to communicate something. And so that was super helpful for me. In addition to just learning about the tax code, learning about tax write-offs I qualify for, talking about structure. I've worked with him for a few years now. And if you want to find out more, go to agristaxadvice.com. If you want to download his free guide, go to agristaxadvice.com/LFTN. That's for Living Free in Tennessee. I have second sponsor today. It's John Pugliano of the Wealth Studying Podcast. Do you want to talk about how awesome John is?
John is awesome.
John is awesome. Why do we love John's podcast?
I mean, he puts out a lot of really good information. It was one of the places that when I started playing around with the stock market, you know, pick up little tips and verbiage and kind of where he thinks the market's going. And that kind of gave me a baseline to figure out what I was going to invest in at the time, and had a decent amount of money for somebody who knew nothing about what they were doing.
Yeah, so you can learn about how he doesn't hide anything, right? He's talking about how he makes investment decisions, but he's not necessarily giving advice. But then he'll also talk about interesting things like ham radio, or whenever he talks about his grandfathers, it's really interesting to check that out. John Pugliano has been an active member of our community for a long time. In fact, he's speaking at the Self-Reliance Festival So check out his podcast, the Wealth Steading Podcast, at investablewealth.com. Click on podcast or just download it to any podcatcher on your phone. With that, it's time for our first segment of today's show, which will be supported by our Sunday video, because we now release a video every Sunday on the YouTubes, on my YouTube channel. I should probably upload those to Rumble too, huh?
Probably.
Yeah, just about something we're doing in the homestead. It's usually a how-to or an update from here, short little videos. And this week's video is going to be about Redneck Pie.
Oh.
Yeah.
You actually got that put together already?
No, but I'll have it put together by Sunday.
Oh.
I have it queued up to be put together.
Okay.
So last night, so yesterday I left the homestead for the afternoon and drove to Nashville and met with somebody about selling my duplex property. And then because I was in Nashville, I was like, hey, my buddy Ken lives there in the area, so I'll meet him for lunch. So I met him for a late lunch. And then I got to drive home through rush hour traffic to get back to the house to do house things. Was I in the mood to cook dinner last night?
Not really.
What was I in the mood to do when I got home?
Nothing.
Sleep. I was ready to go to sleep. Literally, I was like sinking into the couch. So Tactical made Redneck Pie, and I was like, well, maybe I should record this Redneck Pie thing. So how do you make Redneck Pie, Tactical?
Essentially, you make a crust out of sausage and you fill it with onion, pepper, mushroom, and cream cheese.
Yeah, so you take a cast iron skillet, kind of like cheesecake crust. You kind of pat on sausage that you got at the store or that you made from scratch, but he got his at the store. And then you make the filling with the cream cheese, put it in there, and then Nicole adds salt and garlic powder to it because she's in the kitchen with you. That totally happens, right?
Yeah, which should have been anyway.
Yeah.
I was also tired last night.
I didn't feel like dicing garlic. I actually did dice the onions. Were they acceptable?
Yeah.
He thinks I cut my onions too big in my sautés, so I had to go the extra mile on his Redneck Pie. But then he made a pie crust top out of the sausage that he rolled out. Hey, Spags, welcome to the live stream. And then he makes it into a pie. So it's basically no crust whatsoever except for meat filled with filling. And then what do you do?
Stuff your face with it.
He baked it for 45 minutes at 350 degrees before he stuffed his face with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like,
we diced up sage and basil because there was basil in the yard. So yeah, Pack Rat wants to know when I should come over for that. Pack Rat, did you hear about the meetup we're having this weekend at the Holler Hub at Base Camp Lodge at 1 p.m. that starts with a potluck and then has a presentation? Maybe the redneck will make Redneck Pie. Possibly. He's not promising, but it's not an impossible request. How much sausage do you have?
I should have enough to do that.
Could I do a big one?
Probably. I'm not sure how much that would take because
Yeah,
I've never done it.
I can go to the store too if I have to. I don't have a bunch of ground pork to make ground sausage with, so we're doing it. So I'm just saying, livingfreeintennessee.com and come to our meetup. And then you can see the Base Camp Lodge, which is turning into a pretty darn cool event space. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, where's that schedule? Can you get that for me? Anyway, that's going to be the recipe of the week too. So I've done all the spoiler alerts for the Monday mail. With this new schedule where I'm taking Monday all the way off, I realized that I have to record a podcast, get the Monday mail ready, get the recipe of the week ready, and the Sunday video all done pretty much at the same time. And that's actually working in my favor. So like the time management lesson here is I can just bang that out. Anyway, we've got the fall schedule for the Base Camp Lodge up with all of our stuff, September, October, November, December for right now. People are starting to call me to rent the space for their events like other homesteaders. So I think we'll be seeing some other things like maybe something from Ryan Steva, maybe some more dude classes when I'm doing chick classes. Because if you want to do a dude class when I'm doing a chick class, that might not be terrible. And then we can all eat lunch together.
Okay.
And then we can go back to our corners and you can play with chainsaws and I can play with fermented vegetables. What do you think?
I'm not planning on playing with chainsaws.
Yeah, he won't, but Nighthawk does. So anyway, that's all coming together pretty well. Fall is in the air. How do you feel about that?
Mixed feelings.
I have a feeling it means Self-Reliance Festivals will be 150 degrees.
Maybe.
It's going to be like fall, summer for SRF, fall. That usually happens, right?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah. But what it really means is that I seeded the garden with some fall seeds, and I actually may go out there and do seed ferrying where I just throw them all out and see what germinates, like I did with the carrots, and I got all those carrots. The seeds germinated that I put out 2 weeks ago when I realized my green beans had died, and I have more green beans up now, and I have more cucumbers up now, which are not fall plants really, but they may give me a crop. And I'm keeping my eye on the wine cap mushroom bed to see if it's going to give us some mushrooms. I had saw one mushroom there yesterday, and I was like, "Are you a wine cap?" And then it was gone, which means somebody ate the mushroom. So it might have been a wine cap. I haven't ever seen them in person, so I have to kind of go off pictures and the fact that I seeded this bed with the spores of, I don't know if seeded's the right word, but anyway, I spread the spores of the wine cap mushroom in there. So we'll see how it goes. And then I've kept that bed watered pretty well this year. So, because the key is you don't want it to dry out or the mushroom spores could die. But winter is coming. What are you doing to get ready for winter?
I'm starting to think about firewood, which I probably should have already moved some into the house. But I'm also going into full scramble to try to get stuff rooted in certain places before winter sets in, so that hopefully come spring there will be an explosion of things like mint and oregano and thyme in certain places, as opposed to ragweed and perilla.
Yeah, so part of our war against the plants we don't want growing here involves planting plants we do like that do well here. And mints do really well here, including apple mint. Apple mint's actually kind of a problem. And the other mints that do well here are in the ground. And then herbs like oregano and thyme, when they get established, then the other things we don't want don't get in the way.
Yeah.
So he's been sort of plant ferrying around. It's actually time to seed fairy with our magic wands of mullein.
I've already started that.
So we should think about where else.
Yeah, I've got...
The trick being, if you put it in a pasture that's being grazed, it's going to be grazed.
Well, the one place that I've already put some gets decent sun, and it's horrible ground, which means mullein will love it. And it's on the other side of the road. So I'm actually thinking about running the sheep through over there this winter, but
I mean, go ahead.
We'll see.
I think you should. I also know that I can take some down on some of my hikes that are off property and just seed it there.
Yeah.
It's not, and we could put some on hillside if I'd ever just weed that. I need to go full Monty on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's, I've kind of been doing 20-minute homestead projects at a time. So it's been a bit of I make the progress I make. Yeah. My priority has been keeping gardens alive, which everything that has automated watering transparently is doing better than things that have manual watering. Like the strawberries look like crap because they're not getting water because neither one of us remembers to.
Watered them a couple of times.
Yeah, they need water every single day, sometimes twice a day with as dry as it's been. But yeah, I've watered them a couple times too. So they're not dead yet. And he has one tiny little offshoot strawberry he's trying to get in a pot so he can transplant it somewhere.
Rock wall back there. So just a lot of stuff like that. And the more of that ground we take, I think, with the plants we want, the easier it, in theory, will be to maintain some of these areas. Because my homestead has always been a little rough to maintain. Yeah, and it's getting far easier just not fast enough for my liking.
Yeah, we
but
wish we could just wave a magic wand and have all these ideas implemented, but that's not how that works on the homestead, is it?
no, especially when you walk somewhere to look at something, realize that it'll work.
Perilla,
Kind of.
being a mint, is especially pernicious. I don't know, pernicious. I don't know how to say that word. Enemy, but that was a very good P palindrome thingy, not palindrome. But anyway, I'm just thinking of P words, pack rat. Enemy in mint or mint warfare. I will tell you this: Perilla loses against apple mint, which tells you something about apple mint. It is not necessarily a desirous thing about apple mint unless you really want it there.
Perilla also loses getting yanked up by the roots.
I have a Perilla problem over by the garden
Yeah.
in the pathways. Just to use more P words. But it was funny because there was an article I read about how Perilla is invasive, so don't cultivate it. But here's what you can do to cook it. And I was like, anybody who wants to come forage Perilla can come to the Holler Homestead. There is plenty of Perilla for your foraging adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing about winter is I have had a woodshed before, and we took it out when we did the concrete pad for in front of the workshop building years ago. And how long were we talking the other day about where to put a woodshed?
A while.
Like an hour?
It was probably more like half an hour.
I think it was an hour, the whole conversation. It was a combination discussion of where to put a woodshed / if I sell the old roofing that was taken off of Base Camp Lodge, because Tactical would prefer to do everything with brand new everything so that it can be up for the longest possible period of time. But I feel like that much decent condition metal is a lot of metal to get rid of on a homestead. So I was trying to have a conversation with him about, well, what could we use it for that would make sense? Like if it leaks a little in a woodshed, who cares, right?
Yeah.
And it morphed from where to put a woodshed to where to put 2 woodsheds to where to put a big woodshed to why don't we just completely redo the workshop building and put it there. And is that kind of what happened?
Resulting in no decision actually being made.
No decision was made. I thought the decision was made that we could use the roofing for the workshop building.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah. And also we need to decide where we're putting wood next week when it arrives.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I get extra time, I'll start moving wood under here for the winter. Because it could, if we can get most of that wood under here without it getting too cluttery under here, then the answer is it goes where the other wood was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's either that or you're making a woodshed this weekend, which I don't think is happening.
That's not happening.
Yeah, Packrat says new metal for roof when possible, pre-hold metal for walls. I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we could use some storage around here. We just don't know where to put it.
That, and I'm still a fan of a lot of stuff can get gone.
Does that mean you don't like my rock collection?
I don't know where your rock collection is.
It's in the workshop.
Okay.
In cans.
Okay.
And a crate.
Okay.
I have some really nice opals in there.
Okay.
Anybody need opals? Let me know. They're from New Zealand. Anyway, the ducks are in full molt this week.
Yeah.
How many eggs did you get today?
I don't know when the last time I actually got eggs was.
Sometime last week I got an egg.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the only eggs we're getting, how many eggs did we get from the chickens?
There was one today.
So that we have geriatric chickens, and we got eggs from the geriatric chickens, but that's the only eggs we've been getting. Did you put it in base camp?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just going to put it in base camp for whoever's staying there this weekend. So, oh, Packrat says that's the bride's favorite gemstone. These need to be turned into they need to be, polished and set with the whatever that thing is they put on top of opals. I can't remember what it's called. It's like a glass thing.
Okay.
Yeah. They do need to be set, but I do have raw opals that are nice opals. Fire opals, if you will. Let's talk about the cheese class.
Okay.
You ready to talk about the cheese class?
Okay.
Did you have fun?
Yeah. I mean, I was not there for the entire.
What'd you do instead of take a cheese class?
I don't remember, but I was running around doing something.
He was running around working on fencing, I think.
Probably.
Related to male sheep.
I didn't put them in jail.
Before.
Did they go to jail before then?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking about letting them out, and then
one of them tested the fence.
Yeah, one of them decided they wanted to break the rules still.
So they got stuck.
And so they got an extra 3 days tacked onto their sentence.
Yeah. When I walked by him today, the ram was with Stormy's little baby and the other littlest one, which is, I think, little Buddy. And then everybody else was away. The other 5 were away.
Yeah, that's not surprising. Those are the 3 that actually generally stay in the fence. The other 5 have just resigned themselves to freezer camp in October.
They're going to freezer camp. That's 5 of the 10 going to freezer camp. So the cheese class started. So in the last, 2 weeks before the class, we added a wild forage walk from Carrie. And that was amazing. And it's the first time I've been able to go on a wild forage walk with Carrie when he's at my house. Usually I pop in and out, but we're doing an event. And so I'm doing event things. This time I scheduled myself so that I did join them late because I had to brush my hair. But we looked at spice bush and we could have a watercress salad tonight. Do you want to have a watercress salad with dinner? Yeah.
Good.
Watercress and mint and Jerusalem artichoke and what else? I don't remember. There was another one. There was a willow over by the creek and there was something else there. And then banana leaves. So we foraged the stuff and then it was folded into lunch. The things that make sense. So we got some flowers like some Rose of Sharon. Sweet potato leaves from my garden, sweet potato flowers too. And yeah, I harvested a few things because we could. But then we did class. And what we were doing, because it was Chef Ken Daniels and myself, is I was showing them how to make cheeses. And we started with a feta and then we did a paneer. And then I already had a paneer made so they could see, okay, when the paneer looks like this is how you can cook it into your lunch, which he did. So we had duck bruschetto and then we had.
That was good.
Yeah, we had the paneer wrapped into it with spices and tomatoes and something else. And it was folded in a banana leaf and then roasted. So that was the main entree. And he made it in front of everybody so they could see. So he took a blowtorch to the banana leaf to soften it so it was pliable and he could cut things up and wrap them in it. But he also built things into the salad that we foraged, as well as we kind of tasted the spice berries from the spice bush with some of the cheeses. And then after lunch, he put together a whole pairing tasting with meats and cheeses that I had sourced and fruits and things like that. In the afternoon, I also showed folks how to make chev, and then they got some chev and they mixed spices in and took that home, and they went home with a cheese starting kit and I have these 1-page guides that I make for kitchen stuff so that if you take my cheese class, you go home with a laminated cheese getting started thing that tells you all of the basics on one side and has recipes on the other. And then when you're making cheese, if you spill milk on it, you can just sort of wash it off. That's the purpose of that being laminated. So people went home with those. We're starting to sell those this weekend at the meetup when we have our little store with stuff for sale, because it's a super useful way to operate, I think.
It took me a minute the other day to figure out how in the world I ended up with milk all over my hand. And I finally realized that somebody spilled heavy cream underneath the coffee maker. And so the bottom of the drip tray was coated in heavy cream. Yeah.
Really? I wonder how that happened.
I don't know.
I mean, that's totally my fault. I'm sure of it, but
you're the only one here that would have been using heavy cream.
Yeah, I don't think anybody used my coffee maker this weekend besides me. The coffee maker that we were supposed to move over to the cheese class, but it never happened. So we served drip coffee and cold brew at the class. The students loved it. And that space, like every time I do a class there, I'm like, yep, this space was definitely made for classes. Something I decided at the cheese class, though, is when we're doing a hands-on class like that, I am limiting attendance to 8. I originally was trying to sell more tickets to the cheese class than that. And I'm really glad I didn't, because 8 is a really good number for being able to see and get your hands involved. So kind of moving forward, unless it's like the small engines class we're doing on September 13th is actually mostly outside or in the basement, but we'll eat upstairs. That one can have more than 8 people, but sort of those kitchen demo sorts of things work better with 8 people, I think.
Yeah.
So that was a good takeaway for me from the cheese class. Anything else from the cheese class?
I don't know.
We got to hang out with Chef Ken Daniels for a couple days and do a strategy session about building things out here. He loved it. And he's already talking about like some of the things that he cooked with at the class, he has not used before.
Yeah.
He went on the foraging walk too. And then he had to, like, under pressure, figure out how to build that stuff into lunch.
Yeah, I was going to say that was one of the most interesting salads I've ever had, because you give a really good chef a bunch of ingredients that he's never worked with before. And yeah, it was really good, but it was also very different from any salad that I think I've ever had.
Yeah, he was also super excited to do it. And he kind of told me, chefs should come. We should do a thing where we bring chefs out and take them on a wild forage walk and then sort of do a work session together. And he said the problem is most chefs would not prioritize that because, they're thinking, what can I order consistently for my menu, and what is whatever, what is easy and in the budget and all those other things. And, not necessarily thinking wild foraging walk or how do you actually go farm to table, right? Because we have a farm to table dinner with Chef Brett in November. He's actually done a lot of work on farm to table stuff, but like a lot of chefs, you hand them certain cuts of meat and they won't even know how to break it down or any of that. So it's one of those things where we may do more of a chef focused class with a lamb processing.
Yeah.
And then like pair that with how do you cook it now?
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
That's
that kind of class, but it's something I realize, like I've been kind of feeling this desire to share more with people how to cook what you grow, which is why I started the YouTube channel that has basically nothing on it called Homegrown Cooking. Because part of what takes me a while to cook, like I'll cook for an hour. Sometimes other times I cook for 5 minutes just by doing prep work and having the crock pot do it. But on the days when I have time, part of my mental reset at the end of the day is harvesting stuff, preparing it, and then cooking it. And that takes me about an hour to get to the point where I'm starting to cook. And that's because I am processing everything from it was just in the ground 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So that can be done taking a lot of time or not taking a lot of time, but it's a sad thing about homesteading that it's not unusual that homesteaders will grow all this stuff and then not know how to use it or not make time to use it. And so finding strategies, A, to pre-process stuff so it's easier to use for yourself, and B, know what to do with what you're growing is, I think, a huge deal.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I can grow tomatoes and make sauce all day long, but what about like all the other ways we eat tomatoes when they're in season?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think you could make a list off the top of your head of all the different ways.
I made a list of 50 ways to use ground beef as an entree that's low carb, that's each one is substantially different from a taste profile or a use profile. So it wasn't just like 9 types of tacos.
I know somebody that wants that list.
And I'm refining the list now. And I did use artificial intelligence to help generate ideas. And then I have to test them all to see. And I was like, don't give me recipes, because don't ever get recipes from AI, guys. It mashes together recipes that don't work. But having that discussion about sort of a flavor profile totally works. Then while it was there, it's like, do you want cold or cured ground things? And I was like, now I do. So it gave me a list of 50 of those too. And so once that testing happens, that's going to be another one of those laminated guides of just ideas, because when you buy a whole cow, you end up with a lot of ground meat. And I will say we're going to get through all our ground meat this year without a problem. But sometimes it's like, I'm in a hurry. I need to cook. Ground meat is easiest to go from frozen to whatever, because I forgot to take anything out. And what can I do with it that's not taco meat, meatloaf, hamburgers, what else? Korean beef. I don't know. Those are like the major, chili. So those are like the 5 things that are super easy, but like, how many times can you eat those a year? Turns out you can eat a lot, but what if we had other really unique and unusual things we could do with them? Then it's kind of nice. So that was the update from the cheese class. How are the boys doing on their new paddock since they were in jail for a week?
So far, they have not tested the fence, at least as far as I can tell. That paddock is also the best paddock over here, and it has 3 strands of wire everywhere.
That's good. What about the loud that happened the other day?
Oh, that was a fun one. Sitting on the screened-in porch on the cabin at like, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night, and loud clackety clang, bang, 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 metallic something. Sonny tears out down to the workshop to see what's up. I walk down there, look around, shine a flashlight, look around, don't see anything. Dog's not alerting on anything specific. She's just looking around. Shine the flashlight over to where the boys are and see eyes. So I'm like, okay, that looks like roughly 8. So they're all there and they're not like spooked or anything. So I was like, okay, whatever. Go back up. Go down there the next morning for something. I don't remember what I went down there for. And there is a metal 55-gallon drum up against the fence. Originally, that drum was standing up on end, and apparently the bottom was so rusted out. I don't know if somebody tried to use it as a scratching post or what, but they basically sheared the bottom off of the barrel, knocked the rest of it over, and it rolled down and up against a bunch of permanent wire.
So you know what's fun with ruminants and a brushy property is they find things you didn't know were there the whole time.
Well, I knew it was there.
Yeah.
But it's been there for...
But let's talk about things you've found because of grazing. That giant weird sea hook thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's big. It's a big iron hook. I don't know what it's for.
Yeah, it was literally...
It's for something.
Yeah, it had an eye in one end, and it was about 3/4 of a circle. It was about as big around as a 55-gallon drum, and it was probably, I'd say, a 1/2 inch thick.
That's totally from Mr. Cruz.
But I mean, I found chain, hinges. I mean, God only knows how much fencing.
I have found plates and dishes, silverware.
I ran the magnet in front of base camp to pick up nails and came up with a I think it was a 5/8 combination wrench.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else exciting?
I mean, tons of horseshoes.
Yeah, there used to be horses on my property.
Found a number of various different, like, found a tooth off of some form of a tractor implement. That one, like, I knew I had seen it because I almost ran over it with the four-wheeler on one of the steep parts of the hill, and so I just avoided this whole area because it was there somewhere in the weeds. And if I knew if I hit it, it was going to be bad. And finally, I thought I knew where it was, and I got off the four-wheeler and walked over there, couldn't find it. So I just walked around until finally I found this thing. And I mean, it was a spike about that long with a pivot pin and then a piece of square stock about 1.5 feet long. No idea what it was for, but
yeah, even in the backwoods, we find stuff like that because they were growing a lot of corn here 80 years ago.
Yeah.
So there are, like, just when people fled the area to go find work elsewhere because they were flooding everybody out by putting that giant Army Corps dam in. They just left their farm implements out in the middle of wherever they last used them and walked away. There was in fact, that house on the property that we looked at for sale that we still haven't decided not to buy, but we haven't bought. Inside that house, 20 years ago almost, I went in and it was already falling down at that time. Like, this is definitely a bulldozer worthy house. Dining room table set, plates on the table, and it looked like the food was left on the plates. Like, they weren't clean. They just, like, had their last meal and walked out.
Huh.
So interesting. It's interesting how that, like, it's the profound effect that the TVA had on the economy here by making that lake. Like, it forced a lot of people out of here. Like, I feel the resentment about it personally, even though I was not personally affected. And I understand, like, they thought they needed it for flood control. How's that going, TVA? But it was really a way to get your rural independent people out and dependent. So,
guessing most of them want to be in rural independent people somewhere not here.
I don't know. I mean, some of them, yeah, it completely changed people's lives. And then they, like, took their land, even if it didn't get flooded out, and didn't give it back. And then, like, there's a local TTU extension here that is on land that the person whose family owned that land is bitter because it's like, well, if you were going to use it for something, you should have given it back to us because you just took it from us.
Yeah.
And then you used it to make a store and a school and all this other stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of, I really relate to that attitude in the area. I just guess I'll say that. So we pulled the pizza ripcord last night too, because one redneck pie in a small-ish cast iron skillet when the redneck is also hungry is enough to feed one redneck.
Yeah.
One redneck pie will feed 2 to 3 normal people. And so we also made a cauliflower crust pizza. We pulled the pizza ripcord last night, but I pulled a different ripcord. I've been pulling a lot of ripcords this week because I was kind of tired after all that cheese class stuff last weekend.
Yeah.
And what I'm learning is when I do a class like that, I personally need the week after that to be light.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was not to be this week. So I pulled the lamb chop ripcord. It's a new ripcord. How'd you like the lamb chop ripcord?
Lamb chops are not bad. It's just not a lot of meat per lamb chop.
Yeah. Did you eat 4 lamb chops?
I ate 5.
Okay. Anyway, that's helpful for me to know next time I pull the lamb chop ripcord. That's like half a lamb, by the way, practically. But yeah, so that's just because you can cook them like sous vide steaks. So you throw them in the sous vide at 132 degrees, and then you just sear them off. And I was in such a hurry on lamb chop ripcord day because it was also the day I went to town and got a sofa in my house that I didn't spice them before I put them in the sous vide. I spiced them on the way out. It's better if you spice them before, but they tasted good, right?
Yeah.
Little rosemary, salt, pepper, garlic powder, salt. I already said salt. Yeah, done. And then I just complemented that with a saute, and the Rednecks moved my sofa in, and it was all good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you excited about the sofa coming into my life? Indifferent. But you know why I chose it, right?
Because it's red.
Because it's one that's big enough to sleep on, and the one I had before was not big enough to sleep on and was worn out. That's why. Has nothing to do with it being red. Do you believe me?
No.
It is also red. What do you think about that roof at base camp?
I'm glad that is done. Like, I'm glad that we have a new roof on that, because I was not happy to find out that that was metal on top of shingles, and it's been a pain ever since we've had the place with leaks.
Yeah, the roof is done. I feel like if there's time this weekend, a little touch-up paint on the front eave is worth doing. The gutters, I think, will go on next week, probably.
Yeah.
But that's just going to be, they're going to call and say, can we? And I'm going to say, yes. That's how that's going to go down.
Yeah.
They might just show up. We probably should just have cash on hand for that, Bill. But having that roof redone before the class was good, because it also rained like a mofo at noon. Like it rained so bad you couldn't hear me talking in there.
It rained a couple of times.
But it like rained bad, and we were eating lunch anyway, so it was fine. But I was like, man, I need a microphone if it's going to rain in here. And with the old roof, there would have been a chance that the leak would have started.
Oh, it would have leaked.
Yeah, so like super happy we didn't have a leak in the middle of cheese class when we had people out for this like top end hoity-toity class. Yeah. Also, the roof leaks, guys. Sorry, that's a good look. Kerry came out and he's the food forest whisperer, so he's got a whole succession plan for the food forest. We'll be releasing a blog about that. I think I'm putting it on I've been helping him with his website, so I think I'll put it on his website so you can see what's going on with the swales here. But part of his succession plan for my food forest is to like go in deep with a lot of comfrey and let that roll for a year or two, and A, feed the soil, and B, feed the soil, squish out plants, push out the bad ones we don't want. Shade out stuff. So he came in, and how many plants did he put in?
I think it was over 20.
Over 20 comfreys. I know when I split my comfrey there, he's probably going to want more for the food forest, and I want to edge your rock garden in it for the same reason.
Yeah, I do have. Well, I put 2 lamb's ear in over there, and it looks like at least one of them is going to make it.
Where?
So, by the rock garden.
Oh, cool.
So I'm happy about that. Hopefully it survives winter.
Remember the lamb's ear we grew that wasn't lamb's ear?
You mean the mullein that I always thought was mullein?
Yeah, but I thought it was lamb's ear because Jenny had put seeds over there of lamb's ear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we had the debate over whether or not that was lamb's ear or mullein, because that's why I did the research to figure out what lamb's ear actually looks like right before I was over at somebody else's property that happened to have lamb's ear, and I looked down and was like, huh. And so that's where I got the cuttings.
Oh, cool. I know where that's in the holler.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. You subdivided a paddock after talking to Daniel Salatin, I suspect. And it's the worst, most difficult paddock up there.
That's actually not why I subdivided that paddock.
Well, the timing is suspicious.
Well, the timing was because we had a conversation with somebody else that asked if I could move them to a different paddock. because I was going to have to clear the worst part of the pasture right before the cheese class.
Yeah.
And when I actually thought about it, I was like, there is actually a feasibly easy way to break that paddock in half. And I went over and looked and was like, okay, yeah, that actually would work. So I split. The paddock is too large to start with. And part of the reason it's too large is because there's probably a quarter to a third of that paddock is so steep that I can stand straight up, reach out, and slightly lean forward and touch the ground, like straight in front of me.
I know. I've been on that paddock.
Have you been up under that tower?
Yeah.
Like all? I don't think you've been.
Yes, I have, because you made me take poles down once with Mom.
No, you were on the right side of that paddock. I'm talking about the
I was on the left side.
You haven't been over to this part.
Okay. We'll argue about that at the paddock.
Okay.
I'll show you where you made me go.
Yeah, I know.
I had to like crawl up.
Yeah, the other side of that paddock's worse.
It was the left side when facing up.
Yeah, there weren't temp posts over there.
Okay.
But anyway, as a byproduct of splitting that in half, I'm not running them as long on that, what is now 2 paddocks. And it's kind of forcing them to go through a little bit more than they normally would on a paddock. And so
which is what Daniel told us to do.
Yeah. And so I moved them down to the lower part of that paddock a little over a week ago. And then I just moved them to the upper part of that paddock, which includes all of the really bad stuff, like steep wise. So I'll be curious to see how much they actually hit that upper section as compared to what they normally would. I'm hoping that they kind of hammer it down pretty hard, because it's an area that's not really manageable at all for me. Like, I can clear a fence line through that, but there's no way that I'm trying to like go through and just level everything.
Packrat says it's more suited for recreational climbing than hip camp then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hip camp's at my place or at base camp. So that's the deal. So as a result of learning from that, do you think you're going to divide other paddocks in half and see how it goes?
There's a couple of other paddocks that I need to be able to divide up. The other big one that I need to be able to divide, I haven't figured out how to make their water bowls accessible for a 4-wheeler.
Yeah.
Just because of the way it is over there. There's a path where I can sometimes get a 4-wheeler up, but then throwing an extra, 90 pounds on the back of a 4-wheeler and then trying to get up, that's like, So, and the rest of that paddock is just so steep, you can't put the water bowls on it. Or at least if you did, you'd only get like a gallon of water in them.
You need to make a water bowl stand.
Not really looking to do that.
2 legs and a wedge into the side of the hill. So to me, I wonder if we're going to want to start doing the big paddocks and having a single strand down the middle and try to keep them one side or the other to do more intentional. Why not? You afraid they'll run the strand?
You're going to have at least 2 strands. B, the amount of extra work to put the step-in post for that much in addition to the fact
Get him.
in addition to the fact that all the places that we would really want to do that are places that have 6-foot tall weeds.
Okay, we'll talk more about that.
If somebody else wants to volunteer to go set that up one time, I will live stream it and sit there and watch in a lawn chair with a cup of coffee and then just wait for them to decide that that's a horrible idea and never do it again.
Okay, we'll talk more about that. I don't think I'm explaining what I want. We need to talk in person at the pasture, what I'm talking about. Hoff Grid Meat Company is coming Sunday.
Okay.
Because they're doing the presentation Sunday.
Okay.
You know what that means? Ducks and chickens. So we are doing an annual buy from Hoff Grid Meat Company. And happy Friday, Martinson family. And we are going to stock the freezer with poultry we did not raise. Why would I do such a thing when I'm perfectly capable of raising poultry, Tactical?
Because both of us already have more to do than we can handle, and that's not including raising poultry.
So I see a lot of homesteaders feeling burnt out right now. And it's kind of typical for this time of year. The other thing I've seen is people accusing people of not being homesteaders because they're not doing it perfectly. So I want to be very clear about this. We are not raising meat poultry. One of the things I have coached some of y'all through from the beginning, because I've raised a lot of meat poultry in my life, and that's fine. I don't love raising meat poultry. Will I do it again? Probably. Do I want to do it right now?
Nope.
No. And Hoff Grid Meat Company raises really awesome meats. They have poultry and pork, and they raise it ethically. I've been out to their farm. I've seen how they raised it. I've seen the quality of their meat. And I am excited to give them money in exchange for me not raising poultry.
Yeah.
And that's okay. When you have a homestead, it's okay to specialize on some things. It's okay to not do the things you don't love. And this is your reminder to think about that right now while you're feeling burned out. If you are a burnt out homesteader, what things that I'm doing am I just not loving right now? And is it necessary for me to do it for any reason? And if not, can I access the benefit without the work and concentrate more on the things I love? Because I think this lifestyle is part of it is doing what you love and getting a reset. And you don't get a reset when you just constantly do a bunch of stuff all the time just to do stuff. Ask me how I know. Yeah. So, yeah, if you have farm-raised chicken, pasture-raised chicken at my house this year, when I invite you over, 100% from Hoff Grid Meats.
I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, unless it's a yard bird. But we don't really have yard birds, so it'd have to be a yard duck. Speaking of which, we lost a duck this week.
Yeah.
She needs to be fished out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Problem is she was in the middle of the pond. I don't know if she still is.
Yeah, she still we'll just have to, we need a pool net or something.
My kayak's still down there, but I did not feel like actually getting my kayak into the water last night, so.
Yeah. Wednesday shows are back in September. I've got a full lineup, including Brooke Whipple next week, by the way, guys. That's one you're not going to want to miss. And now I need to give you crap. Remember how you didn't like it when I unplugged the fence and forgot to plug it back in?
No.
How many days was my tomato wall unplugged because you were using the hacksaw chop saw thing?
I don't even remember what I used it for.
I'm pretty sure it was plumbing parts on like Friday before the cheese workshop. Or Saturday, somewhere in that realm. The way I found out is I was driving up going, man, nothing I'm doing is making this tomato wall do better. It just looks like more and more of them are dying. And the water level hasn't been dropping. I was like, wait a minute. And I went over and I looked, and sure enough, my wall was not plugged in.
Yeah, there's an aspect to this that's like there's one outlet on the front of this house, and there are two systems in front of this house.
One of them could be plugged in over where you do the battery recharges, though.
That's actually, no, those are GFCIs. I'm not plugging the aquaponics system into a GFCI outlet. Sorry, Matt.
Okay.
Because as soon as you plug that AP in, that GFCI is going to trip every 5 minutes.
I actually had it plugged over there, and it did not trip every 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's going to be in the middle of winter.
I did move it there last winter because I was tired of tripping over the extension cord and my firewood. Apparently you moved it back, though. Anyway, I was like, I get to give him crap back because he was giving me crap about unplugging the electric fence. But he was forgiven immediately because I was like, okay, like the new policy needs to be you use the saw and immediately plug it back in, even if you're coming right back. Or
well, I should have done that, and assuming that I was just either so tired or just so scatterbrained at the moment that I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either. It hasn't been my best tomato wall year, though. I'm just going to say.
No, but it's also the first year you haven't used.
So it's actually the nutrient issue wasn't the issue. It's been left unplugged or had a broken pump during the hottest parts of the year 4 times.
Yeah.
And that really sets the plants back. Now, the nutrient thing I learned is that we had like that boost at the beginning and then it backed off.
Yeah.
And so keeping comfrey leaves in a tea bag in there is actually what needs to happen.
Yeah.
When that happens, which, you know, it's time to put more in. But I don't know how much more fruit we'll get off it this year. We'll see. We're actually, with this cooling set, any blooms it has will flower. But I think the best thing for me to do next year is to take cuttings and root new tomato plants in about mid-June.
Yeah.
And put them out in mid-July and see if I can get a second wave that way.
Yeah.
So that's going to be next year's experiment. But I will say going without the mined mineral worked fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it actually worked better than the mined mineral at first.
Yeah.
And I had a good talk with David about that too. He's like, yeah, it's like once they get to as big as they are now, they're using so much nutrient. It's like you can't hardly keep up.
Yeah.
They need a lot of nitrogen at this point. Maybe you need to pee in there. Don't pee in there. I withdraw that suggestion completely.
I mean, we could try using something like blood meal.
Yeah.
Which would be organic nitrogen.
Yeah. That's not a bad idea. Maybe next year. Next year we'll have another. I mean, the compost tea really worked well.
Yeah.
Like we had a whole boost. Okay. So I've been like working on SRF's agenda all week.
Okay.
And this might be the most exciting agenda we've ever had.
Okay.
You want to hear about it?
Okay.
Okay. Is that a no, but I'm going to say yes because we're live? Okay, so there's some differences at Self-Reliance Festival this year where we don't have Friday workshops at all.
Okay.
If somebody wants to do their own Friday workshop that they manage all the logistics for, somewhere not in my face, that's totally fine.
Okay.
I'll even be like, yay, go take the lock picking, whatever, you know. And that's kind of why we don't have Backwoods Butcher out this time, because in order to make sense for him to present at SRF, he needs to do a class and make enough money to cover his expenses down and back and make a little money in his pocket. So
Yeah.
I was like, maybe we need to do a different class, dude, so that we can actually give it proper attention. And he agreed. So it kicks off. So Spags is the MC this year. and he's a great MC. We are raising money for Dark Horse Lodge this year as part of the opportunity ticket thing. And so he and I will kick it off, and then we go straight into who? Tim Cook, Toolman Tim Cook. He's going to talk about being prepared, not just in theory, like get rid of that and just do what works. He's going to talk about, just how to be prepared that way. And then we have a break that's a half an hour so that people can talk to each other. But during the break, Ryan Steva is going to do a direct solar demonstration, which will be kind of fun. Like how you can, without buying batteries, use solar to keep systems going, to like save on money in certain situations. Then we're going to go straight into who? Brooke Whipple. So Brooke Whipple's going to talk about raw land to rural freedom and about building your homestead one frugal step at a time. So she's done a thing where they've leveraged things that they built one to the next to the next. And then we have another break. Amani and River are going to build hempcrete bricks at that point as their demonstration. And then guess who's coming on at noon? Just in time for you to go to lunch and not buy French fries.
Yeah, you always put him on, right?
So proper human diet with Ken Berry. And so we have him speaking, and then we go into lunch, which during lunch there'll be the first connection session. But also during lunch, we've got 2 food trucks in, so you can like hit them up. And I believe that Angela and Garen will be there with food, also breakfast in the morning. So all of their like tamales and stuff like that. And then we go into Joel Riles' session, which isn't about defense dogs, but it is about creating a defense situation, like how to properly defend your family. And that starts with not putting them in situations where they're like likely to have problems, right? Then there's another big break, and it's going to be cheese making. Guess who's doing that demo? Angela and Garrett Allard. You thought it was going to be me. So Grumpy Acres, they were not sure if they could fit the cheese making demo in with also running their booth. And so I was like, well, I'll do one if they can't, but they're doing it. So it's all them. Then we're coming back and we're talking to Callie Blackwell, Demand Health, opt out of the pharmaceutical system. And then we have another demo, Defense Dogs. So that gives Joel Riles time to talk to all the people after his presentation and then do his defense dog demonstration. And then we're going into the impact of tariffs on solar with Sean Mills. And right about that time, we will have some guests arriving at the Self-Reliance Festival from Unjected, which is a community of folks who do a meetup of uninjected folks who are singles looking not to be single, perhaps. So there will be finally, after years and years of requesting, a singles meetup at the Self-Reliance Festival.
Run by somebody not you.
Run by not me. And so Scott Armstrong is coming in from Grand Theft World. That's one of the podcasts he's on. And he's doing a live from the stage sort of interview thing, but also we're doing an Unjected meetup. And that night we will be showing from a movie. And the movie is Red Dawn, the original Red Dawn. So movie night, singles meetup night. It's going to be fun. And then the next day, we kick off again. And then we start with Sonny Puzias, who's going to talk about like father, like son, how to homeschool your boys and why. And then there are 2 demos during the break. Chainsawing with Chris Watkins. So Chris Watkins is back. And then we're also going to be talking about starting a food forest with Matt and Gabby Hundley. So we haven't seen them at Self-Reliance Festival in a few years, and they'll be back. They will be back with a larger family than they had when they were first there. Nice. I think they had a family to be when they were first there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next up, I'll be speaking on revenue streams from your homestead. Build abundance, not burnout. And I'll tell you all about the burnout I've managed to build and why you shouldn't do that, but also what you can do. Then we're going to have combat midwife, prepping for women in your life of all ages. So preparedness seems to go down to guns, bullets, beans, and Band-Aids, right? What about actual people and kids and women and all of the things you need to handle? We're going to talk about those things, and who better to do that than Jessica Arno, combat midwife. Then at lunch, guess what? Another connection session where we start trying to connect people with different localities. Tag from Life Done Free will be on right after lunch. The system is lying to you what real freedom actually looks like. Another demonstration will be bees with Will Rayburn. And they do a really cool booth where they work with combat veterans to get into beekeeping because the sounds that the bees make help with PTSD.
Yeah.
So if he can bring a live hive, he will. But if it's too hot, he can't because the bees stay in the hive like it's a closed demo hive. But I've asked him to do some sort of bee something if for whatever reason it's too hot for that. So that's a little bit like it depends on the weather, outdoor event. Then John Pugliano from the Wealth Studying Podcast and Investable Wealth is going to talk about trading with other tribes. So that should be a fun one. And then we got Chuck Peoples dispelling the myths of medical preparedness. And then Sean from Off Grid and Growing is going to talk about both off-grid living and how to monetize it with social media. Because he's like, everybody I talk to is off-grid's like, but how do I make money? Then Spags and I are going to wrap it up and we're done. So that is Self-Reliance Festival's agenda. I'm actually pretty excited about that. So if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, go to selfreliancefestival.com and grab your tickets. If you are on my Monday mail, well, you know, you might get a coupon code on Monday. So I will tell you right now, if you use the coupon code LFTN, you will get $10 off, but you won't get it off until after 2 p.m. on Friday, 2 p.m. Central, this Friday, today. So, because I need to go set that up. Anyway, that's Self-Reliance Festival. That's all of our stuff. The only thing I have left is how the finances worked out for the cheese class. So we like to transparently share how the finances of our different projects work out. I lost $800 on the cheese class. What do you think about that? So I had a class that was one of our more expensive classes. And people have been begging me for this class for years. Yeah. And we had attendance that was lower than I expected. And some people were like, well, that particular weekend just didn't work. But also when you're bringing a guest chef in who worked with me very nicely on finances, we'll just put it that way. Yeah. It's like you need a certain number of people. And I think some people saw the price of the class and kind of had coronaries.
Probably.
But also the quality of the food and the experience was, I don't think you could have found another cheese class like that class anywhere. I don't think you can.
I don't think that you could find a meal.
Yeah.
For that price.
Yeah.
For what you got.
So unfortunately, because we didn't sell enough tickets, it cost me $800 to have a cheese class, which makes me really hesitant to do that class again, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We will see. I don't know if it's a build it and they will come situation or what, because like literally people were crawling up my nose about doing this class originally. Like I had probably 10 people who did not show up. Now, some of them I know why. But others, I'm like, maybe they wanted a $50 cheese class, which if you want a $50 cheese class, that's not going to be the class we teach here.
Yeah.
So that's just not what I'm willing to do. But other people are, I'm sure. I mean, I know Grumpy Acres charges $250 for theirs.
Yeah.
For sure. It's the same thing. It's like a whole day thing because cheese takes all day. But anyway. I just wanted to share what those finances were really like. And I'm blushing a little bit because, you know, that is what it is. So, yeah. Packrat says, we will hold this class if it makes X non-refundable deposit. Maybe. That's not a bad idea. I think, if I'm honest, I should have scheduled it about 3 months in advance as well. I think it's easier for people to make time in their schedules. So if I'm going to critique myself, it would be that for sure. Other people may have other feedback, but the feedback I got from the students in the class was pretty awesome. And Scott Armstrong was there with his.
That's also why we have this.
Now. The calendar of events in advance. This is all the fall events. We can add to it, Carrie, if you want to do a wild edible walk, which I'd really like you to do on November 13th in advance of the farm to table dinner. Since you're on the live stream now. So that's what'll happen. Debbie says, if I was in Tennessee, I would have loved to be at that class, but I still have to sell my place in Texas. Exactly, Debbie. I think Pack Rat's idea of like we have to have critical mass for the class to happen by a certain date. And if I say like in February, we know we're doing a cheese class, it's enough in advance for people who are maybe from out of the area to figure it out. Plus, we're having better lodging options here over time as we develop stuff. So I think that could make a difference too. But I do like, because a lot of people think I'll start a homestead, I'll do events and they'll make money, because obviously like you go to Salatin's and he had 150 people who paid $25 each taking the farm tour, the lunatic tour, right?
Yeah.
And then that's 25 times 100 people. Maybe 25 of those were kids. So let's just do 100. So that was $2,500. So they're just making bank, right? He had 3 staff people on the tour, and it was Daniel Salatin who gave the tour, plus the fuel, plus the time, plus all the staff that they have there running the store, making the hot dogs. So they're making hot dogs. So I bet they do make money in the store selling books and stuff like that. But think about this, like he's a super famous author, really. Yeah. But I bet they do make a decent amount of money. But sometimes I do make money on events, and sometimes it's just like one falls a little bit short. And Margot says, I agree, it should have been scheduled out at least 6 months. Also share the menu from the last one, compare it to a dinner out. Yeah, Margot, that's exactly right. We'll do more in advance for the next one. And I'm working on the 2026 calendar of events now for this area, for the base camp lodge. So also, if you want to teach a class, it would be a good time to start talking to me about that. And we also will rent it for events as well. If you want to run your own one, we're happy to do that. And then we will integrate you into the calendar of events that's printed in my Airbnb and put up. This is going to be like building out into a digital asset as well, so that we can get some cross promotion going there. So yeah, been a lot of lessons this year. That's what I'll say. Yeah, cool. So if you like the show and want to support the work we're doing here, you can do it in 2 ways. Get your coffee at hollerose.com. Also, consider becoming a member. To find out more about that, go to livingfreeintennessee.com. With that, go out, guys. Make it a great week.